On the Las Vegas Raiders rundown, Josh Jacobs is cool with sharing the workload? Khalil Mack already brushing aside the Raiders? Who's under pressure in year 2? And people are still doubting Derek Carr. All this and more will be discussed, so remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and ring the bell for notifications.
Let's get right into it.
Man, I don't think people understand that. That's really my dog. You know what I'm saying? Like we be with each other the off season before he even came here. We used to train together when he would come back to Bama and all them type of things. So man, I tell them like I don't want this to be a one-man show. I mean, my body don't want this to be a one-man show. You feel me? So I tell him like, you know what I'm saying, incorporate him and just to see him have success and have him kind of coming into his role on the team, man, it's been huge.
So that was in week 7 before the Eagles game. Josh Jacobs saying that he doesn't want it to be all him. He wants to share the rock with Kenyon Drake. Also talked about how he's pretty good friends with Kenyon Drake. They both were from Alabama, former Crimson Tide. But it's interesting to hear him say that last year. People talk about how we have a lot of running back depth. Obviously, we drafted Zamir White in the 4th round. So people have wondered, is Jacobs cool with being in a committee of running backs? That's what Josh McDaniels typically does, has a running back through a committee. Would Jacobs want to be, a 3-down back? But according to last year, if we just look at history, we can see that Jacobs, he doesn't want to have the rock all the time. If he keeps getting carries, he's going to get hurt. Like he says, his body can't take it anymore. So that's interesting to note. Thinking about this year, Jacobs will probably be really happy that he has a lot of people who could take the load off for him, and perhaps he'll be healthy for more games. We know that Jacobs has been run into the ground in the past. John Gruden in 2020 had Jacobs have 30 attempts in the first game against the Carolina Panthers, and I just thought that's a little too intense. Like you gotta have, tons of running backs and you gotta spread it around or else somebody's gonna get hurt. Somebody's gonna get hurt, and we know that Jacobs often has some injury issues, but he hasn't been injured that much, and I also want to push back against this narrative that Jacobs fumbles. Look, I know when he fumbles it stands out, but always remember, he only had 2 fumbles last year. He's not fumbling a lot at all, despite getting a bunch of carries. Now, Jacobs' PFF rush grade has declined over the years, 86.9 his rookie year, 79.4 in 2020, and then 81.5 just this past year. But Jacobs is still going to be a great running back. He's still top 10. He has some of the most missed tackles forced in the NFL. Actually, when you look at all the numbers throughout the past 3 years, he's top 5 in missed tackles forced. And so you're definitely going to be able to use this guy in the red zone. He'll pick up some touchdowns really easily for you. And especially if he's been, spelled. If he's been spelled the majority of the drive and you can just bring him in during the red zone to hit a home run for you, basically, I think that's going to be a lot more successful rather than giving this guy the rock the whole entire drive. And then by the time you get to the red zone, he's gassed. He's gassed a little bit, especially if you're sustaining a long drive. So be interesting to see if he improves, if the carries matter more, if we're going to see less, runs right up the middle for 1 to 2 yards. But also, it really is dependent on the offensive line. And that's what brings us to this next story. Alex Leatherwood, he's one of these top players who has to perform well in year 2. He's got a lot on his plate. We know he's a 1st-round pick. We know you got a lot of guaranteed money tied to him. Leatherwood had the most pressures allowed by any offensive lineman in the NFL and a 29.0 PFF pass blocking grade. And if it doesn't completely work out this year, if there's still some struggling involved, they're going to put him on the market to trade. And it will be a devastation because he's a 1st-round pick. We've already wasted 2 1st-round picks in 2020. We can't have 2021 be a bust. And then 2019, the decline of Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option, decline of Abram, decline of Clelin Ferrell, all these guys, if you're going to gamble on it, I don't want to sound cold, but if you're going to gamble on it, if you're declining their 5th-year option, they're probably not going to be on the team next year. I mean, that's just a fact. That's just a fact. Likely going to happen that way. I hope it doesn't happen that way. I hope they ball out. I hope we come to an agreement and they stay with the team for multiple years. But when you look at it, if Leatherwood doesn't pan out, then you got Ruggs and Arnett not panning out last year for 2020, and then you have Abram, Jacobs, and Ferrell possibly walking after this year. That means you're going to have 2019, 2020, and 2021 with none of your 1st-round picks still on the roster in 2023. That would be a huge devastation. Obviously, we didn't have a 1st-round pick in this most recent draft, so I guess we got lucky there. But hey, maybe that's what we need to go. I mean, I think this franchise, I don't even want to put on the last regime. This franchise has just coincidentally not hit it out of the park with 1st-round picks. Maybe we got to go Ram style and just trade our 1st-round pick every year to pick up more Devontae Adams. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another game, but also understanding that, I heard that crowd cheered me on, and now you're going to hear the crowd boo us. So it's a full circle moment, and I'm just looking forward to having fun, man, playing football again.
So Khalil Mack was asked about the week 1 matchup versus the Raiders, if it's a special game for him, and he just says, nah, it's just another game. It's no big deal. And maybe he has that change of tune after he got his ass whooped by the Raiders in 2019.
Kind of a quiet quiet night for him and his bid to go against the team he was aiming for, the Raiders.
Never forget, the Raiders versus the Bears in London in 2019. Khalil Mack didn't do jack shit. He didn't do anything. He looked a little pissed off towards the end of the game because the game didn't turn out his way. But I'm not going to lie, you know, they had injuries at quarterback, no Trubisky during that game. However, the Raiders picked up the W, and I'm very interested to see what's going to happen because he could act like, oh, it's not a big deal, whatever. He wanted to get paid by the Raiders. He wanted to be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL, and the Raiders straight up weren't going to make that happen, and they were vindicated. They were vindicated because Khalil Mack with the Bears, I'm sorry, if you're a Bears fan, you regret making that trade. You regret making that trade because his production slowed down. Outside of that 1 year in 2019, his production slowed down tremendously, and that's why the Bears were willing to give this guy up for a second round pick. If he was really in the elite category of Max Crosby, of Aaron Donald, would he be given up for just a second round pick? Obviously, other teams are on the phone calling saying, how much is it for Khalil Mack? And, you know, the Bears are only able to get a second round pick out of this guy. If he was still elite, you're definitely going to get a first round pick for him. I don't care if he's in his early 30s. So he's going to try to act like this isn't a big game for him, but you know he has some animosity against the Raiders. Obviously not against his friends on the team like Derek Carr, but against the franchise of the Raiders. You know he was smirking when he joined the Chargers, knowing he's going to face us twice a year, perhaps even more based on how crazy this AFC West matchup is going. Maybe we'll have an AFC West playoffs. I mean, there really is a possibility that at least 3 teams from the AFC West can make the playoffs. Either way, Khalil Mack, he can act like it's whatever, but we know it's a big deal. So we know Chris Sims ranked Derek Carr as the 11th best quarterback in the NFL, and now you have PFF having Derek Carr in this tier called a mixed bag, the most polarizing players in the category of Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott, and these are players where the franchise is split on them. Half of the people think they're great, and half the people think that, you know, there's some trouble there. They can improve. But I really do think this is an outdated take. This is basically the view that Raiders fans had of Derek Carr, perhaps in 2019 and even a little bit in 2020 as well. But it's not the case anymore. After last year, most Raiders fans, from what I've seen, what I've heard talking to people, most of them just really do like Derek Carr. I would say it's more of a 70-30% split. I would definitely put Kirk Cousins in this category instead of just saying, oh, you know, Derek Carr, he's a polarizing player. No, because he shouldn't be in tier C. He should definitely be in tier A. And tier A is playing at an elite level over 30. And these are quarterbacks who are over 30. You got Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, and then they add Matt Ryan. You're going to put Matt Ryan in there. So keep in mind, Derek Carr is 31 years old, and you're going to rank Matt Ryan on the Colts ahead of Derek Carr. Polarizing. I mean, I bet you I could find more Falcons fans who are glad that they're switching up at quarterback, despite that Matt Ryan had a great career, but I think the fan base was just tired of it because he's represented losing. Really, he's represented losing, and when you give up that big lead against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, I mean, how are you really going to come back from that, man? That's just really embarrassing stuff, to be completely honest. And it's funny how the NFL always overvalues Colts quarterbacks. A lot of people are saying that Carson Wentz was better than Derek Carr last year, and they're more hyped about him, but we saw how that shit turned out. So according to PFF, Matt Ryan is better than Derek Carr, despite the fact that last year Matt Ryan had 3,968 passing yards, while Derek Carr had 4,804 passing yards, almost 1,000 more passing yards, and Matt Ryan had 20 touchdowns while Derek Carr had 23 passing touchdowns. And then even according to PFF's own metrics, Matt Ryan had a 75.9 passing grade, while Derek Carr had a 76.6 passing grade. So Matt Ryan gets to be in the elite tier of QBs over 30, but not Derek Carr? I call bullshit, bro. So going back to Josh Jacobs and the running back committee, you know, there's a lot of fantasy football talk. Should you take Jacobs high? I don't really care about that. I care about the impact that it has on the Raiders and what this team could possibly look like. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting. Amir Abdullah is more of a pass catching back, along with Kenyon Drake. You know, he has a lot of great receiving skills. So we know we're likely not going to see Josh Jacobs on passing downs. So don't expect him to get many receptions, despite the fact that last year he had his high in receptions. I think that was due to the injury of Jalen Richard and Kenyon Drake. So this year we're going to see a decline in receptions for Josh Jacobs, but hopefully we'll see a more healthy Josh Jacobs. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the Raiders Rundown for more NFL content and ring the bell for notifications. This has been WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.